Alright, welcome to communication. This tutorial covers 3 sections in the Surf Lifeguard Manual and workbook, and so if you're following along, it's pages 12 through 14 in your workbook and pages 28 through 36 if you want to read deeper. This is all about types of communication and how to communicate effectively. Cool, alright, so communication can be broken down into these two basic forms, verbal and non-verbal, and you can see how massive the list is for the non-verbal as opposed to the verbal. And in fact, audible non-verbal makes up 38% of all communication. So audible non-verbal sounds we make, how the tone and pitch of our voice, for example. So that's 38% of all communication. 55% is visual non-verbal, so our body language, making eye contact, facial expressions, posture, gait, how you run towards the IRB, those sort of things. So that total, the amount that you're communicating non-verbally is around about 93%. 93% of all communication is non-verbal. That only leaves 7% for the actual words that you're saying. In your workbook, they ask for examples of verbal and non-verbal communication. But I don't want you to just stop at saying one-on-one is the type of verbal communication. I want you to give some examples, such as this. Speaking to a junior surf group, verbal or non-verbal? Alright, verbal. Running to the IRB, verbal or non-verbal? Obviously non-verbal, we're portraying urgency. Signalling an IRB to pick up a patient? Non-verbal. Radioing a fellow lifeguard to get equipment? We're using our voice, therefore it's verbal. Whistling to someone who's drifted out of the flags? Might be a sound, but it's still non-verbal. Commenting in an incident debrief? Using your voice, therefore it's verbal. Calling 0800 Save Life to do the start of patrol report? Also comes under verbal. Putting a comforting hand on a patient's shoulder? It speaks volumes and it's non-verbal. Non-verbal cues are so important. They're important because they help get the verbal message across to the receiver. Non-verbal signals returned by the receiver can tell us if the message was received and interpreted with the correct intent. So when you go to tell that person who decides they're just going to walk straight into the water rather than going towards the flags, and you go and tell them that they should go and swim between the flags, if they flip you the bird, they obviously haven't understood why you've said that. Okay, so we need to change our communication mode. Maybe we need to change our posture. Maybe they've seen us as threatening or just the fun police or whatever. So we can actually change our non-verbal communication to help support what we're saying verbally. This sort of stuff is actually really important when you think about how you are on flags, for example. When you're looking down at your phone on flags, what are you actually communicating, like with your body language? When you kneel down to talk to a child, what are you communicating? When you're sunbathing in your uniform, how do you think that's viewed by public? When you carry a radio fins and tube, what are you communicating? When you finish patrol, crack a beer and you're still in your uniform, what is that saying to public? When you are driving fast in the ATV with your hat backwards and it's not a rescue situation? When you're hot dogging and bow jumping with the IRB in patrol hours, what are you communicating? When you smile while signalling public back into the flags, what is that saying? When we make a line of guards in the water to stop public drifting, what are we communicating? When we have lots of people in the tower chatting and not facing the water, what is that saying to public? And that's actually that's a pet peeve of mine, because it's telling people, in my opinion anyway, that the tower is a hangout spot, not an observation point. So just have a think on that for a second. Are we saying that talking to our mates is actually more important than actively lifeguarding? So how your non-verbal cues are actually really important. Really important. Now this is actually a study that I love. It's really old, but it's got some fantastic stuff in it that I thought would actually be really handy. Now it was done all the way back in like the 1960s, but it's all about universal facial expression. So it doesn't matter which culture you associate with, your facial expressions are the same. So if we're talking to a member of the public, and these bits might be a bit hard to read, so I'll read them out for you, and we're displaying a happy face, primarily a smile is obviously the tell for that. Sad, primarily a frown or a furrowed brow, this bit coming together. Contempt, primarily tight lips raised slightly to one side. You see that unevenness, and you'll see this a lot as you move people back into the flags, as you tell people that it's not a good idea to swim there, all of that stuff. You'll see this face a lot, and it might mean that you can actually change their facial expression by combating it with a correct non-verbal cue of your own. Maybe adding some verbal cues like letting them know that it's not actually a safe place to swim because of fill in the gap. Disgust. The tells for disgust are clenched nostrils and pursed lips. Anger, a flushed face, an inward and downward brow movement, a hard stare, flared nostrils, clenched jaw. So it's amazing how many little things you can pick up on in someone's face, or someone can pick up in your face too. Fear. You'll see this one as you pull someone out of the water sometimes, especially when they've finally actually come to the realization that they are in trouble, and at that point there's not much time left. We're seeing widening eyes, we're seeing dilated pupils, risen upper lip, brow drawn together, lips stretched horizontally. And this last one, surprise, characterized by raised and curved eyebrows, stretched skin below the eyebrows, horizontal wrinkles across the forehead, open eyelids, drop jaw, parted lips. This is when that parent that you told you should be within arm's reach of your child says, oh yeah, no, that's fine, and then a sweeper wave comes, knocks their child off their feet, and they start running towards them. They really didn't think that was going to happen, but we knew. That's why we told them. Right, it may seem logical, but here are the 5 key steps to effective communication. You might notice that I've only got 4 listed here. That's because I want you to actually go and look at your manual and find the 5th one. We want to make sure that we're observing their body language, we're observing the surroundings. We want to make sure that we've actually got the whole picture. We've got to listen to what they're actually saying, and that's handy. What we can do to make sure that we've heard them correctly is rephrase and repeat back what they said. That way we know that we're both clear on it. Make sure you actually respond. Just telling someone something and then walking away actually is not effective communication. And you'll find the 5th one on page 35 of your Lifeguard Award manual. Something like this, because it's so logical, might seem redundant for me to put in this tutorial, but everything in these has either helped me as a lifeguard or will help you in your exam. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Alright, barriers to communication. Ever think about these? Background noise, surf and wind, for example. Personality conflicts with patrol members. Foreign members of public. So our barrier might be a language barrier. Distance. The public that we're trying to move back into the flags might actually be quite far out to sea. So how do we overcome these? By making sure the message is understood correctly and by using the correct language for the receiver, both verbal and non-verbal. So let's get a bit more specific with these examples. Background noise, surf and wind. You're trying to communicate between two lifeguards, and one of you is in the tower and it's not windy in there obviously, and one of you is down the beach and you're hearing that wind come across the microphone. How are we going to overcome that? Well, obviously we can try and make that communication in a sheltered location, or maybe turn our back to the wind, or maybe use our radio inside our jacket. That's another possibility. Personality conflicts with patrol members. Really good time to utilize our peer support team and maybe get some mediation going. I mean, if it's beyond help, think about maybe changing to another patrol. We never want to lose people, but you do understand that not everyone actually is going to get along. So you might find that you're better suited at another patrol. I've changed patrols before to help with such a sort of a situation. Foreign members of public, we need to use a common language. I mean, and that's the best part about having incredible diversity in our surf club. You can find someone who speaks a whole bunch of different languages or is from that person's culture, so you can get the message across, that safety message across. I've used drawing in the sand before. I've used writing it down. Sometimes written comprehension for people is easier than spoken comprehension because we use so many colloquial, so many slang words and stuff. Distance, member of public, far out to sea. I mean, you look a bit silly if you're standing on the water's edge, just blowing your whistle, trying to signal someone back in or into the flags even, and really you could actually just cut that distance down by getting in the water. It's not actually that good a look to just stand there and blow your whistle heaps of times. Get in and cut that distance down and eliminate that barrier of communication that is distance. Alright, two-way radios. So this is what we have in surf lifesaving. We have handheld radios and we have base sets. At Bethells we have a base set that lives in the first aid room. We also have one, I think, that lives in a rhino. Now that's important because if you go and work over at the lake, that's where we get all our spinals and our major first aids usually, with our wicked sand dunes. You might find that a handheld radio doesn't have enough strength to get the signal to another handheld radio. So if you take the Rhino that has the base set in it, this will push the signal further, and you'll be able to communicate back to the surf club, for example, or to the tower. Your handhelds have less coverage. Now we might find that with the digital network change that's a bit different. These are the parts of our radios. This is the antenna. Don't hold radios by the antenna, they will break. This is the frequency knob or the channel selection. Now that goes up to 16, and that's a handy way to remember that the international distress channel is channel 16. We'll talk more about channels soon. Your volume knob is also your on-off. So you'll notice that when you turn it on, it does a little click, and then there's the sound which goes either blip or and it takes a while for that sound to happen. So in your exam, while you're sitting there with your examiner and they say, show me how you set your radio up for patrol, you go and switch your radio on and you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait and you think, oh my gosh, I've done it wrong. No, you haven't. It's just that sound takes ages to come out. You've got a push to talk button on the side here, and you hold that down while you speak, and the person answering you, we're going to hear that out of here. So the speaker and the microphone is in this area here. Now your base set, same thing except greater strength like we were saying, and your microphone is split up from your speaker. So you've got your volume and your on-off. Sometimes you push the center of this to turn it on, depending on what type of base set you've got, or sometimes it's the same as the on-off control on your handhelds, and you turn it and it just clicks to get on and off. Pretty sure the one in the first aid room is a push this down as a button, and then you get to turn it as a volume thing. As you change the channels through this, you'll see them come up on this part as well. Your push to talk button, that one on the side, is on the side of this part here, and we're speaking into this part. So those are our handheld and base set radios. Now, how does it work? Now, we used to run an analog system. That's, for example, like an AM radio, and this is what we call line of sight or simplex. One aerial talking straight to another aerial, that's channel 3. Now, that's the same for analog radios and for the new digital radios as well. This is how channel 5 works. Simplex, so that's line of sight like we just saw here, but it's also got the scan function, and that's what you can hear, you can see happening here. The signal from SurfCom, the rescue network, is getting passed through repeaters which are carrying that signal to another high point and to our beach, but also carry it to all the other ones, which is why all of the other beaches can hear what's happening on SurfCom as well, because the message is happening through the repeaters. And that happens on channel 5. But what you might have saw is that we can only speak line of sight, so from aerial to aerial. So we can hear what's happening over the entire rescue network, but we can only speak to our own radios line of sight. Channel 1. If I'm doing my starter patrol report, it's going to be passed through those repeaters all the way to SurfCom, a rescue network. There we go, channel 1. And they'll respond through all the repeaters back to us, and that means that all of those other beaches can do the same. So technically I could speak to the Ruakaka guards, it's just not good etiquette. All information goes through SurfCom, and SurfCom sorts everything else out that way. So we can talk to SurfCom. This is how we get our ambulances, this is how we give them all our stats and stuff like that, and everyone else can hear us. So those channels are the same in the digital network as well. Now, analog systems, channel 2 and channel 4 are slightly different. So with an analog radio, if we have issues with this repeater, at Bethells for example, our repeater is not at a high point, it's on our surf club, which means there's heaps of interference. So we can take the signal through a different repeater, like the one between us and Piha. We are able to get around that terrible location for that repeater and get a better signal out. So that was channel 4. The digital network. This is how it works now. Now the difference, the way I remember this is analog is like AM radio, but digital is like Spotify. So now multiple people can talk at once and we can connect people heaps better. So first of all, the things that are the same. Rescue network is the same. I can talk on channel 1 and SurfCom can hear, and Ruakaka can hear, and Waipu can hear, and Muriwai can hear. And technically we can all talk amongst ourselves, but we keep it clear because this is where all of our rescue calls come through, and all communications for other beaches would go through SurfCom. So that hasn't changed. Channel 2, however, is now what we call a talk group. And it works like a group chat. So say we want to talk to SurfCom, who's getting an ambulance for us maybe, but we also need some extra help from Muriwai. We could get SurfCom and Muriwai to change to channel 2. And that way all of those other beaches aren't hearing us. So we can do this all, we can work privately rather than everyone else hearing us. So it's a handy little working group. Channel 3 works the same as it does on the analog network. Line of sight is just the simple way of saying simplex. So it's aerial to aerial, it's our Bethells radios talking directly to our other Bethells radios. Channel 4 is effectively the same thing as channel 2, it's just another talk group. So if we don't want everyone else in the region hearing us, we could get SurfCom to ask other beaches to change to Channel 4, for example, or Channel 2, it doesn't matter which one, it's just whichever one's not busy. And that way we're not getting in the way of all of the stuff that happens over Channel 1, and all the other people aren't hearing us as well. So Channel 2 and Channel 4 are just talk groups. They're just working groups that we can isolate out just the people that we want to talk to. Channel 5 works the same. We can be nosy and hear what's happening over the rescue network, but we can only talk to our own radios. And Channel 6 is VHF 69, and that one's really handy if we're talking to Westpac. And so, say we're doing a big search because a boat has overturned and there are multiple crews in play, like Westpac from above, Coast Guard from the water, and us, SLSNR, Northern Region, inshore close to the rocks and on the beach. Surfcom may ask us to change to Channel 6 to talk to other rescue services. On their radio, though, it's VHF 69. Now, Westpac just doesn't keep a radio hanging out on 69, so if we needed Westpac to change, if we needed to talk to them, we'd have to get Surfcom to ask them to change to VHF 69 so we can give them some information. And remember, right now we can see with this that if we were on Channel 5 we couldn't do that. We'd need to be on Channel 1 to ask Surfcom to ask Westpac to change. You might find that it's easier just to tell Surfcom what we need to tell Westpac and they'll do it for us. Channel 16 is the International Distress Channel, and the way I remember that is, firstly, your radio only goes up to 16. It doesn't go up to 69, so if you're trying to remember, that's a lot of sixes to remember, and we have to memorize these 7 channels. When you're 16, everything is so distressing. So that's how I remember international distress is 16. Now, international distress is something like this. Boats close enough to your beach can call you if they need help. So if you see something odd boat-related, vessels going up in flames, boat close to the rocks, boat hanging out for ages, maybe it's run out of petrol, then you could check Channel 16 in case they're trying to call for assistance. So here are those channels. If you want to pause and write these down, that's a great idea. So Channel 1, also sometimes they call them mode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 16, completely fine to do that. So Mode 1, its full name is the Rescue Network. Its call sign is Surfcom. So you have a Surfcom operator over the rescue network. Channel 2 is a talk group. You don't have to say talk group 1, it's just a talk group. Channel 3, line of sight, or the fancy name is Simplex. Channel 4 is just another talk group. We can isolate out the people that we want to talk to, and the people that we don't want to hear won't be changing to that channel. Channel 5 is Simplex and Scan. So Channel 5 is the one where we can hear what's going on over the rescue network, but we can only talk to people on Channel 3 or Channel 5 because they're all the people that are line of sight, that our aerial is talking directly to another aerial on our beach. Channel 6 is VHF 69. That's some of our other emergency services. Now, frustratingly, the ambulance doesn't have this frequency, and it's super frustrating for Bethells, especially when they can't find the lake and some member of public has called them, but they can't get hold of us to pass that information on. So often you'll find that Surfcom may be getting hold of us to let us know that there's an ambulance looking for the amphitheatre at the lake, the bit where everyone breaks their backs and femurs and all sorts of fun bones. So unfortunately our ambulance doesn't use this, but Westpac Helicopter does. Channel 16 is that international distress channel. Alright, so I've got a little game, it's called Which Channel Should I Use? I need an ambulance for this munted surfer. How do I get an ambulance? Which one of these channels will have someone who can get me an ambulance? This is Channel 1. We'll speak to our Surfcom operator and they get an ambulance for us. I need to tell the guys training in the IRB to go check O'Neill's. That beach is actually called O'Neill Bay, but O'Neill's for short. And that is the beach 2 beaches north of us. Pretty dangerous beach. Remember, they're our lifeguards, so therefore they should be on channel 3 while they're training, and we'll be able to tell them that we need them to go do something. United and Bethells are doing a coastline search, and I need to get hold of one of their search teams. So if we've joined up with another surf club, then we've probably got everyone working on channel, if you said 2 or 4, awesome, you're correct. Maybe you need to go through channel 1 to get your teams to change to channel 2 or channel 4, or if you've already group coordinated, then we'd all decided to be on channel 2, or we've all decided to be on channel 4. For some reason, I can't get hold of Surfcom. Is there a channel on the digital network that we can try if channel 1 isn't working? If you hear no response from the rescue network from channel 1, is there another channel in the digital network that we can turn to get a hold of our Surfcom operator? And the answer is no. It used to be channel 4 was our backup, as we saw from our picture earlier, but we don't have that now. With the digital network, you either have 100% loud and clear, or you have nothing. There won't be any crackle or anything like that. So, if you can't get a hold of Surfcom, then we're going to utilize our patchy coverage. We're going to find someone with either a spark or a 2 degrees, I think, a cell phone, and we'll find those magical little spots either in our tower or at our surf club, and we'll get information out to them that way. You might find that you need to use a base set from the surf club. The tricky part for us about going digital is that we'll often lose our phone line or internet completely at the surf club, and digital runs off the internet, so that's going to be an interesting one for us. We might find that our cell phones are actually a really important rescue tool for us to utilise this season coming. Right, I need to tell the rescue helicopter that Bethells Community Day is happening in the reserve where they normally land, which means they can't land there because there's heaps of kids and stalls and all sorts of fun stuff happening in there. So what channel can I speak to the rescue helicopter Westpac on? They need to be on channel VHF 69, which is my channel 6. Remember, they don't just keep one sitting on channel 69, so I'd have to ask Surfcom to get them to change to 69 so I could tell them this information, or I could just tell Surfcom directly to tell them. That looks like someone way out on that boat is trying to signal us. What channel might they be sending a distress signal on? If you said channel 16, you are correct. They might be on VHF 16, and we might hear them calling Mayday, 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 or Pan, Pan, Pan. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday is immediate help required, loss of life is imminent. Pan, Pan, Pan is if we don't get help soon, we're going to have to use a Mayday call. Right, if I'm on flag duty, what channel should my radio be on? It's worth checking every single time when you go onto flag duty. Should be on channel 3. Now my argument for that, because some people say that you should have it on channel 5, my argument against that, against having your radio on channel 5, is that, remember, this is the Nosy Parker channel. This is the channel where you can hear everything happening on channel 1. If you're on flags, your only job is watching the people inside the flags. So why are you listening to anything else that's happening over the rest of the rescue network? In my mind, channel 5 is for your patrol captain or your vice patrol captain or your tower person. Those are the people that have an ear to Surfcom. Your job on flags is be able to communicate with your tower, channel 3, line of sight, to tell them that you need to go in for a rescue or that you need backup or you need cover or a replacement or whatever. There's no need for you to be on channel 5 in my mind. Muriwai has something big going down. We should get some extra IRBs set up just in case. What channel would we be able to hear what's going down at Muriwai, but only speak to our own people, sneakily setting up, ready to offer some assistance? Well, that's our channel 5, our nosy channel. I can hear what's going on, but I'm sneakily going to start setting up, which means we're talking line of sight, but we're scanning the rescue network. And that's something that your patrol captain would hear because their radio will be on channel 5 usually. I need to radio in our end of patrol report. Who do we radio in end of patrol reports to? Well, all that information is collated by SurfCom. So they write it in, and also that paperwork that you've written it down on or onto a tablet gets put into a massive database so that we've got heaps of stats to run off as well. But that all goes through channel 1. I'm heading down to the flagged to do flag duty, and I need to perform a radio check. What channel would you do a radio check? Just because you're going down to flags. That'll be channel 3. Nice. Line of sight. One of your guards to another one of your guards. That looks like smoke coming from that boat way out there. I wonder if they're okay. If a boat was in distress, what channel might they be sending a distress signal over? If you said channel 16, epic. Maybe they're saying mayday, 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 their boat's going down. And we'll write down as much information as we can. Maybe they're saying mayday, mayday, mayday over channel 16, and we can go and help them. We want to write down as much information as we can. Right, radio setup. The steps for radio setup. Now you might notice that some of these aren't in your book, but be very clear, they are in your exam. You'll sit down with an examiner and they'll ask you how to set it up, how to maintain it and stuff like that. So write these things down. Check that the radio is charged. We want a solid green light on the charge station. Even a flashing green light on the charge station actually means 90% full. So if there's nothing else, then why not? Turn the radio on and adjust the volume to just over halfway. Check the battery condition on the handheld. Either a light or a meter will indicate the battery level, and so sometimes you'll see that on the top of the radio or it make a sound, but you'll also see that before we take it off, so that's also part of this part here. Remembering that if you're on channel 5, however, it's going to be flashing red, and so it's not an indication of your battery level. That's just reminding you that you can't talk to your SurfCom operator or the other people that you hear over the radio. Step 4, check that you are on the correct channel. The first thing we're going to do once we've set our radio up is we're going to do a radio check, and we certainly don't want a radio check with everyone else in the region just yet. SurfCom will call us for radio checks at the start of patrol. We want to do a radio check with each other, so we need channel 3, our simplex line of sight. Maybe you've got someone standing down in the gear shed and you're up in the first aid room, and you radio check with them, and we'll have a practice of doing that as well. We want to adjust the squelch knob if necessary, and so that's for marine VHF radios, so we don't actually have a squelch knob on our radios. But if you find that you're doing, I don't know, you just happen to be doing some sailing with someone and you need to use their radio, you need to turn their radio on, it might have a squelch knob, and if it does, we turn it up till the crackly sound appears and then turn it down until it disappears, just until it disappears. We want to place handheld radios in a splash-proof bag or an aqua pack, or a pakwa as this is branded, and it's got instructions of how to seal it. Make sure you check this pack. People's nails will often pierce it, and we certainly don't want one of these going out in a rescue if the whole thing's gonna fill up with water. So you want to make sure that this pack is actually sound, and we want to perform that radio check by calling another radio. Recharging procedures. Okay, so end of patrol, we charge our radios at the end of every patrol. That's part of making sure that when we need them they're going to be charged. So what do we have to do? We have to remove them from the splashproof bag. Seems obvious, but don't just leave them sitting there. We need to turn the radio off. Don't forget to turn it off. We put the radios, or in older cases you used to have to split the back of the battery up. The battery which is on the back of the radio, you used to have to separate it from the rest of it. But pretty much all of our radios now are one piece, so the entire radio will get put in its cradle. So we put the radios on charge. Make sure a light appears on the charger to confirm that it's charging. Okay, so if you remember before, there's where that light is on our multi-box, and there's the light on our single charge cradle. And if it is green, then it's still got 100% of its charge. If it was flashing green, 90% charge, so not bad. We could totally use that. Maybe, if you can see these little fins here, maybe you actually haven't put it on the cradle properly, and it isn't slipped in nice and tightly into the grooves that are here. That's when the light will flash red. If that radio is not charging, the light on the charge station will flash red, which means you need to have another check of that. Now there are some other colours you'll see. Orange means the radio is doing some reconditioning. Flashing orange means it's cooling down. And if you forget all of that, then it's actually written on the back, pretty much right here on the back of this charge station. The only one that's super important for you is that we need to make sure that that's charged. What colour is charged? Green. What colour is it's not on the charge station properly, or there's something wrong with that charge terminal? Flashing red. Those are the two most important ones. If you're unsure, ask your radio officer, because it certainly isn't any help if a call out happens and none of the radios have been put on charge properly. If you find that a radio needs attention, maybe we've got a broken aerial, or something's just not right with it, or maybe it got dropped in the sand. Why you would have one out of its aqua bag, you think it's damaged in some way, it's been a bit smashed up or whatever. Do not use tags. They're in the POM folder, the Patrol Operations Manual folder, and we want to tag it with a reason and notify the radio officer. And for us at Bethells, that radio officer is Andrew Carr. If you can't find him, then make sure at least your patrol captain knows, and we'll always keep it separate from the others. So, emergency procedures. In an emergency, a surf lifeguard may need to cut across another conversation. To clear the channel, we press the transmit button, that's our push to talk button, and we say rescue, 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 followed by our call sign, and our call sign's Bethells. So it would sound like this: rescue, 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 surfcom, surfcom, this is Bethells, do you read me? Over. Why? That's because all other radio users on that channel must stop talking and stand by to provide assistance. Someone's calling in a head count. I don't care if you're doing a rescue, 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 you need immediate assistance. That's the point of that, to make sure that everyone knows that you have become the priority speaker. This one is in your test as well, and actually it's a really handy one for life, because if you ever call 111, this is the order they ask you for things in as well. So when we're reporting emergencies, we remember the 4 P's: position, problem, people, progress. So position, where is this situation taking place? It's 1 kilometre south of the patrol tower, 200 metres offshore. Our problem, a surf cat has capsized. People, 2 people are requiring assistance. Progress, we're launching an IRB. We'll update you with more information when the IRB reaches the patient's over. So that would be our conversation with Surfcom. Now, every tube rescue and every IRB rescue doesn't actually need to be called in. Imagine if a situation like a couple of weekends ago, mid-January 2018, where Muriwai did 27 rescues, Karekare did 9 rescues, and then imagine 17 other beaches doing numbers anywhere in between that if we had to call in every single one. The point of calling these in is if we need further assistance. So I reckon the reason we're calling this one in is because we've got a boat that's capsized and we're actually really worried about, maybe we saw it capsize and it looked like it was pretty violent for the people that flipped the boat, and so we're expecting to need an ambulance or something like that. So that's the reason why we'd call something in. Now on channel 16, remember how we talked about our international distress channel? You might hear 2 different calls. You might hear a mayday, 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 which you probably heard of before on TV and whatnot. What you may not have heard of is pan, pan, pan. So these are international distress signals, which is given when a boat or a ship needs help. If you hear this, we need to stop, listen carefully to the distress message that will follow, and we need to contact the police immediately, and we can do that again through SurfCom, our rescue network, channel 1. The difference between a mayday and a pan. A mayday is immediate assistance required, loss of life is imminent. For example, fishing knife in leg and that person is bleeding out. But a pan call, if we don't get help soon, we're going to need to do a mayday. For example, we're out of gas and soon we'll be on the rocks, that sort of thing. So that's the difference between those calls, but both of them, if we hear them, we need to make sure that we're calling SurfCom over our rescue network, because they sit in the same room as Coast Guard, and that's above the Marine Police Unit, who run all the search and rescue stuff. Radio etiquette. How do we use these radios? Alright, so the things we need to do, we need to listen before we speak, especially if you're talking on channel 1. There's actually a little prompting sound, either a doot or a blip, that'll just make sure that you're not starting speaking before you've actually held the button down. So we want to make sure that we've heard that before we start speaking. We want to make sure that it only happens on channel 1, by the way. That's a really important thing to remember. But we want to make sure that we've given enough time, so have a good listen, have a good breath, and then speak. We want to hold the microphone 10 centimeters away from your mouth and off to the side slightly. If we talk directly into it, it's just going to make the sound muddy and unreadable. You need to hold the transmit button down, that's our push to talk button, until you've finished speaking. We want to give the call sign of who you wish to talk to twice. In that last scenario we said SurfCom, SurfCom, this is Bethells for example. And there's no cussing or waffling on or anything. Yelling makes the clarity worse. It's just going to rebound in our face and rebound again into the speaker. So just making sure that we're speaking slowly and clearly. Pro words. Now in your lifeguard manual there are a bunch of these, and some of them are actually really useful. These are my top 3. These are probably the 3 that I use the most, but there are other ones, and it's worth having a look at every now and then in your theory exam for your lifeguard award. They pull out some of the other ones, so go and have a look at the pro words. On TV you'll hear them use 2 of them together. People will say over and out, which is a ridiculous contradiction, and it's super frustrating and makes you look like a noob, because over is used when you want to receive a response, but out means the conversation is over and the channel is free for another operator to use. So if you say over and out, which one is it? So we'll never use them together. They are, this one is I want a response, this one is I'm done, someone else can use the channel. Standby, and this one's handy if you need to gather more information. So say you've requested an ambulance from SurfCom, and SurfCom has asked you about some information about that patient that you don't actually have yet. You could ask SurfCom to stand by while you gather that information. It's really important that we're not, cussing and waffling on and all of that sort of stuff, that we've got really good radio etiquette, because people monitor our radios. Not only the fact that all the other beaches in the region can hear us, But especially after we've had a hectic situation at our beach, sometimes the media will also start monitoring our frequencies as well, so make sure you're keeping it professional. Duty officers and Surf Lifesaving Northern Region staff have special radios, district radios, that they can switch between beach frequencies, which means they might be driving towards your beach and listening to your chatter over the radio. Do you sound professional, or are you talking about your weekend? Every now and then radio enthusiasts will have their own radios as well. So they may be listening to what you're saying. I can't stress enough how important it is to be professional over those radios. The New Zealand Radio Frequency Service monitors our radios. So that means that if we've had a hectic situation go down, they can pull our transcripts, they can pull our chatter, they've recorded that, and that can be entered as evidence, and of course it's timestamped, so we can't fool them or anything that we did something when we didn't, or said something when we didn't. Alright, what do we do if our radio becomes immersed in water? So I don't know why this person got this radio into water when there's no splashproof bag, but let's imagine that the more likely scenario is that your splashproof bag had a hole in it that you didn't realise, or it got ripped and then it got in the water. We need to make sure that we turn it off, get it out of its splashproof case if it's still in there. You need to remove the battery from the bag. There's a clip on the bottom for some of them. Sometimes there are clips on the side here as well that you can pull off. We want to flush with fresh water if it's been immersed in salt water, just to make sure that we get all the salt out of there because it's corrosive. And we want to dry the radio and the battery as much as possible. Get it as dry as you can. We need to label it "Do Not Use" and separate it from the other radios so that it doesn't get used, and we need to let our patrol captain and radio officer know so that they can do something about it. We certainly don't want it ending up back with the other ones if it's now broken because it's been immersed in water. So that's really important. Right, so we're going to have some radio practice. I'm going to be purple, I'm going to be Bethells Mobile, and you're going to be Bethells Tower. So you really just read this like a script. Bethells Tower, this is Bethells Mobile, requesting a radio check. How do you read me? Over. Bethells Tower, this is Bethells Mobile, also reading you loud and clear. Out. Now, if I didn't hear you loud and clear, I might comment on it a different way. Maybe I heard part of your transmission, so maybe you were broken, but I could still read you. You weren't clear, so you're broken but readable. Maybe I might tell you that you were broken but readable. That doesn't mean that you're hearing me broken but readable, but maybe I'm hearing you broken but readable. I'm going to be Surfcom, and you can be Bethells this time. Break is a term that Surfcom uses when they're stringing together communications with different beaches. So they will have been talking to Muriwai. That's all copied. Muriwai. Break, Bethells, Surfcom. Requesting your 12 and 2 o'clock head counts. Over. Bethells, Surfcom, all copied. Break, United, Surfcom. Requesting your 12 and 2 o'clock head counts. Over. Not super scary. Feel free to go over it again if you want to, or pause and have a go with someone else as well. Okay, so the other thing that you'll learn to do, this is our patrol captain's report form, our PC form. And there are 2 sections at the start of the day that we'll need to tell Surfcom. The first section is this resources section, and I've made it bigger over here for you. They need to know how many lifeguards we've got. They need to know how many sets of flags we've got open. They need to know how many IRBs. And these things are linked because if your beach doesn't have 3 guards on, you should not be running an IRB. So that's what they're looking for when they're running this stuff. Maybe you've got 1 radio. So they're just trying to make sure that you've got all the resources you need, and they can actually get you more resources if you need it. Now the other equipment section, that's for beaches that have utes with extra medical equipment, or beaches that maybe don't run IRBs, they only run a rescue board. This weather section is up here. It used to be, the old forms used to be really nice, you just read down 1 line, but it's changed a little bit. And these are all codes. The cheat sheet for these codes is on the front, or rather the back, of the patrol captain's report form. And then after reading the resources and the weather, we state what our head counts were or are at the time that they've requested them. So this is what it'll be like. Break, Bethells, Surfcom, requesting your starter patrol report and 11 o'clock head counts, over. And we'll reply to Surfcom. Surfcom, this is Bethells. Report reads, from number of patrol members, 15, 1, 2, 6, 2. Weather, 2, 3, 3, 3, 9. At 11 o'clock, we had 12 on beach, 4 in water, for a total of 16. Over. Okay, so the hardest bit is following because it's not linear. It goes from down here to up here to your 11 o'clocks, which is somewhere around about there. So, I'm going to prompt you, and you're going to do it this time. Break, Bethells, Surfcom, requesting your starter patrol report, 11 o'clock head counts, over. Cool. It'll get easier and it'll make much more sense when you hear it in real over the radios. So your end of patrol report. We will have heard the beaches before us, and then we'll hear break, Bethells, Surfcom, requesting your end of patrol report, 4 o'clock head counts, your peak head count, and can you please advise me of your closing time? Now, where you find all this information? Generally the first thing they want to hear is actually our hours worked. So every single person who came on patrol who is patrol support or a lifeguard has their name written down here, and when they started, when they finished, and their total hours. So we'll add up their total hours and put it in here, and that'll be the first thing that we read out. After that, we'll read out this list here, which is all the stuff that we did, all our actions, and that's blown up over right in this section. The next bit we'll add is whatever our current closing head count is, and our peak head count as well. Now, there is one time that we won't hear Muriwai get called out before us, and that's if we know, or if Surfcom knows, that they're finishing at a later time already, in which case they'll jump straight from a beach that's closing at 4 PM like us, north of us, then to us. So you might hear Mairangi Bay, and then instead of going break, Muriwai, can I have your end of patrol report, it'll say Bethells, can I have yours, straight after Mairangi. Alright, so this is what it's going to sound like. Break, Bethells, Surfcom, requesting your end of patrol report, 4 o'clock head counts, and your peak head count. Can you please advise me of your closing time, over? To which we'll reply, Surfcom, this is Bethells. Report reads, from number of hours worked, 3 guards, 6 hours. So I'd say, from numbers of hours worked, 18. Number of people rescued, 0, 3, 0, 0, 0, 58 involving 79. At 4 o'clock we had 3 on beach, 0 in water, for a total of 3. peak head count 31, and we'll be closing at 4 p.m. Over. And they'll reply, all copied Bethells, Surfcom out, or all copied Bethells, break, break, United, United, and they'll ask United the same question. Graphic communication, the last section. You may not even have noticed these flags. I've had members of public say, you guys should put up signs to tell everyone about the dangerous currents. But we actually do put up signs to tell people about the dangerous currents and when it's not okay to swim and when it is. It's just funny that people actually just don't read them. So we put these up all over the show, and we'll talk about some places in a minute where we put them as well. So our patrol flags, they indicate our Surf Lifeguard patrolled areas. Now if we go back, this is what we're talking about here, our number of patrolled areas. Our beach really only has one place that we can put the flags, so we only have one flagged area. On a beach that has a massive population like United North Piha, for example, and quite a long stretch of beach, they will actually have 2 flagged areas, and that's why they'll have, it'll say 2 patrolled areas there. That way they can catch all the people. So they indicate our flag, our Surf Lifeguard patrolled areas. Sometimes you'll see on signs, usually by the access ways, our swim between the flags sign. So you'll need to write down in your book that they can be used at beach access ways to indicate where the flagged area is. This is the no swimming logo. It's used to localize danger areas, for example rips and holes, or when the beach is closed. Another place that we put this one up is over in Ding Bay, which its real name is Waitakere Bay, or at the bottom of the sand dune leading to O'Neill's. On a stunning day, people want to go over to O'Neill's. It's just idyllic and beautiful. Unfortunately, it's a death trap. Strong currents placed on the beach to inform beachgoers that there are rips present and it's too dangerous for swimming. So we put this one usually right in front of the tower because we've got that massive hole and rip system right there, and they just think, oh, there's the tower, I'll swim in front of that, instead of actually looking for where we've put the flags. Another place that we often put this, depending on the tide, is in front of the estuary mouth, close to Ihumoana, the island, because it pulls out quite strong there. Shark sign, this one's pretty obvious. At 1 April Fool's we actually put it in the lagoon and it made the paper. So the shark sign comes out when there's a confirmed shark sighting. We remove the patrol flag, so we remove the area that we've said it's safe to swim, because it's obviously not safe to swim, and we put the shark sign up. The other thing that we'll do is we'll call Surfcom. What channel would we call Surfcom on? Over the rescue network, it is channel 1, and we'll let them know that we have shut our flags because of a shark sighting, a confirmed shark sighting, and we will advise them when we reopen. The danger flag. So this one lives in our patrol box until we really need it. Flown from the clubhouse, or for us it's flown from our tower, when sea conditions are too dangerous to designate a patrolled area, so to put flags out on the beach. Now that doesn't mean that we all go home or we all go and sit in the club for the day. We actually are still watching the water, because just because there's no flags out doesn't mean people won't try and go swimming. So it's really important. We haven't actually left the beach. We're still watching, and there is a big difference between a dangerous weather patrol and a foul weather patrol as well. Right, signal flags. Now we have these, but they actually don't get used that much anymore, especially at our beach, because majority of the time we have a southwesterly wind, which is directly onshore for the direction that our beach faces. Which means if you're trying to signal someone out in the sea, they don't see all of these beautiful bright colours. All they see is someone holding up 2 twigs, and you can't actually tell what they're doing. So often we'll just use 2 tubes. They're nice and fat and red, and get to a high location, and we'll use those to use our signal system. But if you end up patrolling a beach that doesn't constantly have a southwest wind, you might actually get to use your signal flags. So they're used for communicating with other surf lifeguards through the SLSNZ signal system, and we'll teach you those signals. This is a hazard sign. It's used in conjunction with a worded message below the sign. For example, stinging jellyfish. We have one of these at the beach end of our beach access way, not the car park end, because we actually have some quicksand that every now and then will bog out a car, or in the past it's taken a horse and a motorcycle and all sorts of fun stuff. So that's a possibility there, but for some of the other beaches, stinging jellyfish is a pretty common one that you might have this sign associated with. So this is the swimming permitted sign, and it shows where swimming is permitted. Sometimes it's at an access way. For us, pretty sure we have one on the back of the tower, and it's part of a sign that we change. So when we're on duty, it says swimming permitted, and then we flip a sign over. The other side says no swimming logo. So we make sure that everyone knows that it's really not safe for them to swim if lifeguards aren't on duty. Cool, so that's all of our signs, and that is the end of communication. It's definitely worth reading through the Surf Lifeguard Manual for these sections so you can get extra clarity on that.